National Assembly, Senate President Godswill Akpabio has acknowledged the severe economic hardship that Nigerians are facing due to inflation and rising living costs, driven by the economic reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. In his address marking the senators' return from their annual recess, Akpabio has expressed empathy for citizens that are struggling with the challenges imposed by these reforms. Now, he described the administration's reforms as courageous, but he distanced President Tinubu from blame for the economic situation. Akpabio emphasized that the National Assembly is aware of the sufferings caused by inflation, market volatility, and economic instability. And then this comes as the Central Bank of Nigeria. This is another thing that is another hot topic that's up there. The Central Bank of Nigeria raising the interest rates to 27.25% in an effort to combat inflation, despite warnings from industrialists, including billionaire businessman Aliko Dangote, about the damaging effect of high interest rates on businesses. Now, Akpabio has reassured Nigerians that their struggles have not gone unnoticed, and he promised the Senate that the Senate would respond with appropriate measures. Okay, let me quickly get your thoughts on this one. Different aspects of this story. We'll take it one after the other, but let's get your holistic thought on it.
All right, so first of all, I want to begin by saying the hallmark of a matured leadership is the ability to take responsibility. So when the Senate President begins to distance the executive from the blame on the economic hardship and crisis that we are having, then it shows that perhaps we do not have a sense of maturity in the leadership that we have chosen for our country today. Because if you have that sense of responsibility, then the first thing you must do is to take the responsibility as a leader and reassure your people that you are doing something about it. But when you just wake up and say you are not to be blamed, you stand aloof from the blame, then it is improper. So for me, the Senate President saying that the President is not to be blamed for this, it's totally wrong for me, because the President must come out, address Nigerians. When you were campaigning for our votes, you went from state to state. Even though during the time of your campaign, so many people perceived the incumbent president as weak and sick at the time, which, like I said, they were assuming. I don't know if that was true or not, but that was an assumption. But in spite of that assumption, he was able to prove to Nigerians, I'm not sick. You see, there were times he had to even go to the gym. He was giving us pictures of the man working out to prove to us that he was not sick. So if you could go all out to prove to Nigerians that you were not sick, you could go all out to tell Nigerians that, look, I'm capable to be your president, then you should come all out now that we have challenges as a country. You shouldn't stay at the back seat, stand aloof and say, no, I'm not to be blamed for this, or have the Senate President as a spokesman for you. You are the executive arm. We voted you in there. You got your way into power. Now you are in power. You must ensure that you carry the citizens along. You must ensure that you are communicating with them. What is so difficult with a live press briefing? If the president has to give us a press briefing every other week, so long as we are reassured, then there is no problem. Let him give us a press briefing every other week. Let Nigerians see that their president feels their pain and is talking with them.
All right, let's look at although we've had talks from the president and reports, but since you already laid it down on a live brief, that's a live broadcast, right? That's another part of it, because most of the times we've heard talks from the president, it's usually in a conference, or the president was represented by his deputy and he said this and that. But whenever we hear that, Nigerians are always trying to pick out what exactly the president is trying to say that is going on right now. Like, what are the steps that are being taken to cushion the effect of the hardship on the people? But then we have, it doesn't mean that the president has not done anything. concerning cushioning the hardship on the people, because we've heard about the tax waiver on businesses, which we'll get to talk about as our next story. But then let's look at the statement by Akpabio that they are aware of inflation challenges, down to the increase in interest and how exactly this will get to affect businesses.
Okay, so back to the Senate President's comment that they are aware. You know, it's a normal slogan in Nigeria. Two slogans are very normal. We are aware and we are on top of the situation. So Nigerian government is always aware and they are always on top of the situation. So Mr. Senate President, thank you very much for being aware. But what are you doing?
So let's do something about it.
Let's look at, is the hardship touching Mr. Senate President? How aware is he? You know, I'm a pastor and somehow I like to bring in the gospel into whatever I say. Jesus was talking about himself. He said, you do not have a high priest that is unable to feel the feelings that you have. So your high priest is among you, walking among you, feeling what you are feeling, and also was tempted in like manner as you are being tempted. So where is Mr. Senate President? Is Mr. Senate President feeling it? Is Mr. Senate President taking a 50% slash on his salary, on his allowances? And is he able to say, okay, I'm leading the way, every other senator, lead the way. Let us show these people that we are particular about their interests. We are particular about their well-being. When you say you are aware, what are you doing? One day you set up a palliative system. The palliative system ends up in the hands of your corrupt politicians. The corrupt politicians will still keep these palliatives in their warehouses. And then when they are done, you see them, even those times we had palliatives, bags of rice were sent, people took those palliatives, they hoarded the palliatives. After they had hoarded these palliatives, they went ahead, took off the labels that were on them, and were selling them in their personal warehouse.
We're still having cases like that.
And it is going on. So you say people should wait, you are aware? You are aware of what exactly?
Even when they came out and said, oh, we're slashing our salary by 50%, for the next 6 months, we're going to only earn 50%, right? Nigerians still faulted it. And they said, it is not the salary that we want you to slash. We want you to slash your allowance and not the salaries.
Exactly. When you
so even when they took that step, it still seemed like it wasn't enough.
When you look at the basic, when I spoke now, I talked about salaries and allowances. The basic salary is nothing. The local parlance will say the cocoa. The cocoa is in this allowance. The cocoa is in all this. You hear crazy situations from the Senate. You hear things like they shared 500 million to everybody. They shared 5 billion. They said they were disbursing this. You heard the other time the Senate president was talking on a live broadcast. He didn't know that the mic was still on and the television stations were still broadcasting. And he said, we are going to send this, we are going to send this. And when they corrected him, look, you are still on air. He said, we are going to send prayers to your mailboxes. So at the end of the day, it's a laughable situation when people say we are aware and we are going to do something to cushion the effect of this. If you are aware, have you ever seen the Senate president move before? Do you see the number of cars that goes in his convoy? Cuts down on that.
Okay.
Cut down on that. How many presidential fleets do we have? Cut down on that. The president just got a new presidential jet amidst the issues of minimum wage increment that was being taken up by the NLC. So cut down on this. Prove to us that you really take measures. Cut down on governance. One person has 100, 200, 600 political aides. For what? Cut down on it. You circulate this money within a certain area, and then they are just feasting on the commonwealth of a whole nation. So it's appalling. So for me, if they want to say we are aware and we are going to take measures that are going to be drastic enough to cushion the effects of this economic crisis, then probably what they should do is to show quality steps first. If you want to slash your salary, no problem. Also slash your allowances. I mean, one of the presidents in Africa, the military guy, Traore, he had said he was not going to take the presidential salary or allowances. He remained on his salary as a military captain. That is a man that wants to see change coming. So if you truly want to see something work for the citizenry, then you must take quality, drastic steps. You must also take steps to invest in our local content. You must take steps to invest in our local content. We must take steps to, you know, one of the things that I used to like about the military regime, when I read so much about it, and I'm like, one of the beautiful things about it, even if it may be termed corrupt by a certain sector, is that there is that high chance of driving policies. If today it is announced on the radio that fuel must sell for 200 naira, there's no filling station in this country that will sell fuel for less.
But talking about policies now, remember in Akpabio's statement, he was pointing at the policies. And according to him, he agrees with other Nigerians who feel like these policies are part of the reasons that we're having the challenges and the hardship that the country is facing. So driving this, is it really about driving the policies or the policies themselves?
First of all, we have clandestine policies. Policies that are not clear, with clear intentions for the people. We have such, okay, look at what you just read out about the central bank raising the interest rate. That's a policy that has been announced by the central bank and is going to be invoked. Nobody is going to fight it. When we came up with the power tariff, electricity tariff increment, noise making here and there, it was implemented. Some people in the House of Representatives and the Senate were saying, oh, we're going to fight against this. It died a natural death.
And that's one question I've been asking, why? Because even when we look at the demands of labor was not just asking for minimum wage increase. They had other demands. Exactly. In fact, the electricity tariff was part of it. But then we didn't hear so much about that. But it only seemed like minimum wage was the only thing labor was fighting for at the end of the day. Yeah. But that's the only thing that we actually saw. So back to the question, do you think it is the policy that is the issue, or the implementation of policies that's the actual issue we are facing?
I think the two of them are issues. First of all, the policy is an issue. What kind of policies do you put up? Secondly, how do you drive it down? So when you have negative policies and you still find your way of driving it down, you're not doing any good to the people. So you think these
policies are negative?
Policies that are being set up are negative policies.
But we've been told that we should just hold on, and after a while it will start yielding results.
Okay, let's take for instance the removal of fuel subsidy.
Yes, that's even one of the biggest.
Do you know they're still paying subsidy till today?
According to NNPCL statement.
They're still paying subsidy till today. But you told us there was a removal of fuel subsidy. When you want to remove fuel subsidy, you've made a declaration as the executive arm. Immediately it cascaded to every sector. It was implemented immediately. That same night, after the swearing in, this price increment took effect.
Yes.
Now, if the president was thoughtful enough, as the father of the nation, caring for his children, which we are, the president would have sat down with a team and said, what do we put in place first before bringing up such a harsh policy? So even if the president says this policy may be harsh, give me some time. After this number of time, maybe 3 months, 6 months, 1 year in office, you will see the benefits of this policy I brought up. But before I bring up this policy, sit down. What can we do? What can we do about this before it is implemented? Then if you say, okay, we're going to come to the point of fuel price increments. What is the approved standard that no fuel station should go beyond? None of these discussions were made. We know that this will cause hardship, economic hardship on the people. What are the strategies, measures that we are adopting to ensure that this hardship will not tell so hard on our people?
Distribution of palliatives.
They just ended up with distribution of palliatives. But at the end of the day, that is not a measure. At the end of the day, it's not a measure because, like I said, it ends up in the hands of same corrupt politicians who hoard these palliatives in a warehouse.
All right.